Good morning, students. Let us read chapter 4 in the Kingdom of Fools. It is believed that fools are dangerous, that only very wise people can manage them. Who are the fools in the story and what happens to them? So, this is the story about the fools, and it is believed or it is said that fools are really very dangerous than that of the wise people, and only wise people know how to manage or how to control the fools. So, who are the fools in this story and what happens to them? Let's read about it. In the kingdom of fools, both the king and the minister were idiots. They didn't want to run things like other kings, so they decided to change night into day and day into night. So, here the narrator has said that there is a kingdom of fools where both the king and the minister were idiots, means were stupids, fools, and they didn't want to run things like other kings. They didn't run the things just like the other kings do. So they decided to change night into day and day into night. So they took a very foolish decision. They changed night into day. Means, to run things, they decided to change night into day and day into night. So, what does it mean? Let's read and find out. They ordered that everyone should be awake at night till the fields and run their businesses only after dark and go to bed as soon as the sun came up. Really, a very foolish decision. They ordered that everyone should be awake at night. No one should sleep at night. And till their fields, means plow their fields and run their businesses only after dark, means only after evening. So the king ordered that all the businesses, all the work will be carried on only after dark or only after evening. And go to bed as soon as the sun came up. So, and when they will go to sleep? Only when it will be morning. Anyone who disobeyed would be punished with death. So, and besides that, he ordered and he said that if anybody disobeyed his law, then the person will be punished. The people did as they were told for fear of death. The king and the minister were delighted at the success of their project. One day, a guru and his disciple arrived in the city. So, people ordered the king's order, and the king and the minister were really very happy to see that everything is going very smooth and fine. So, one day, a guru and his disciple arrived in the city. It was a beautiful city, it was broad daylight, and there was no one about. So, the guru and his disciple arrived in that city. It was really a very beautiful city, and there was broad daylight, means completely sunshine, but no one was there. Everyone was asleep, not a mouse stirring, not a mouse was moving, everybody had gone to sleep. Even the cattle had been taught to sleep by day. The two strangers were amazed by what they saw around them and wandered around town till evening, when suddenly the whole town woke up and went about its nightly businesses. Even the cattle were taught that to sleep in the daytime. So, as they were the strangers, the guru and the disciple, they wandered around till evening in the town. And when evening occurred, everyone came out of the house and started doing their nightly businesses. The two men were hungry. Now that the shops were open, they went to buy some groceries. To their astonishment, they found that everything cost the same. A single dudu, whether they bought a measure of rice or a bunch of bananas, it cost a dudu. So they were hungry. Not now the shops are open. As the shops are open, they went to buy some groceries. To their astonishment, means to their surprise, they found that everything cost the same, means a single dudu, a single price, be it a bunch of bananas or be it a measure of rice, everything costs a dudu. The guru and his disciple were delighted. They had never heard of anything like this. They could buy all the food they wanted for a rupee. Even for 1 rupee, they could buy all the things they wanted. So they got really very delighted, very happy. When they had cooked and eaten, the Guru realized that this was a kingdom of fools and it wouldn't be a good idea for them to stay there. This is no place for us, let's go, he said to his disciple. So after they cooked their food and ate, it was the Guru who advised his disciple that they should not stay here because it was a kingdom of fools. But the disciple didn't want to leave the place. Everything was cheap here. All he wanted was good, cheap food. But the disciple didn't want to leave this place because he was getting everything at a cheaper price, and he was thinking that everything was good. The Guru said, "They're all fools. This won't last very long, and you can tell what they will do to you next." The Guru warned his disciple that this is the kingdom of fools, and this rule is not going to last very long, and he can't tell that what will be happen to him next. So the Guru warned him that not to stay here for long because he might be in danger. But the disciple wouldn't listen to the Guru's wisdom. He wanted to stay. The Guru finally gave up and said, "Do what you want. I am going," and left. The disciple stayed on, ate his fill every day, bananas and ghee and rice and wheat, and grew fat like a street side sacred bull. So finally, the disciple didn't listen to the Guru's advice. So the Guru finally left and told him that whatever he wanted to do, he could do. So the disciple stayed there, ate his feel every day, means ate after full, bananas, ghee, rice, wheat, everything he ate delightedly, and finally he grew fat, just like that of a very street side sacred bull, just like a street bull. One bright day, a thief broke into a rich merchant's house. He had made a hole in the wall and sneaked in. Sneaked in means entered in. And as he was carrying out his loot, the wall of the old house collapsed on his head and killed him on the spot. His brother ran to the king and complained, "Your Highness, when my brother was pursuing his ancient trade, a wall fell on him and killed him. This merchant is to be blamed. He should have built a good, strong wall. You must punish the wrongdoer and compensate the family for the justice." So finally, what happened? One day, a thief broke into a rich merchant's house, means entered secretly into a rich merchant's house. He had made a hole in the wall, and he made a hole in the wall and sneaked in. Sneaked in means looked into it. And as he was carrying out his loot, out his thieving, we can say, so, thieving, the wall of the old house collapsed, means fell on his head, and he died on the spot. His brother then ran to the king and complained, and told the king that while his brother was pursuing, means carrying out his ancient trade, that is thieving or loot, the wall fell on him and he died. So he told the king that the merchant who has built the weak wall has to be blamed. And he told the king that he should punish the merchant and compensate the family in justice for the justice. The king said, Justice will be done, don't worry," and at once summoned the owner of the house. Summoned means called upon. So finally, the king called upon the owner of the house, that is the merchant. When the merchant arrived, the king questioned him, "What's your name?" "Such and such, your highness." "Were you at home when the dead man burgled your house?" "Yes, my lord. He broke in and the wall was weak, it fell on him." So the merchant arrived and the king questioned him, asked him that what is his name. The merchant replied that his name is such and such, and he asked him that whether he was there at the time when the dead man was burgling his house, means thieving or looting his house. He replied yes, and a wall broke. The wall was weak. It fell on him and he died. The accused pleads guilty. "Your wall killed this man's brother. You have murdered a man. We have to punish you." So the accused means the dead man's brother. He pleads guilty. He has pleaded before the king that to provide him justice. And the king then told the merchant that his wall killed the man's brother. That means indirectly he has murdered a man. So he will have to be punished. "Lord," said the helpless merchant, "I didn't put up the wall. It's really the fault of the man who built the wall. He didn't build it right. You should punish him." Then in his defense, the merchant said that it's not he who has built up that wall or put up that wall. It is the fault of the man who has built that wall. So the king should punish that man who has built up the wall. "Who is that?" the king asked. My lord, this wall was built in my father's time. I know the man. He is an old man now. He lives nearby. So the merchant then replied that the wall was built in his father's time. He knows the man. He is an old man and he lives very close to his house. The king sent out messengers to bring in the bricklayer who had built the wall. They brought him tied hand and food. So the king sent out his messengers to bring that bricklayer who has built the wall. They brought him, they tied his hand and feet. You there, did you build this man's wall in his father's time? Yes, my lord, I did. So the king asked the bricklayer whether he has built that wall. If the bricklayer replied yes. What kind of a wall is this that you built? It has fallen on a poor man and killed him. You have murdered him. We have to punish you by death. So the king told him that he has built a weak wall for which it had fallen and killed a poor man, so he must be punished by death. Before the king could order the execution, the poor bricklayer pleaded, please listen to me before you give your orders. It's true I built this wall and it was no good. But that was because my mind was not on it. I remember very well a dancing girl who was going up and down the street all day with her anklets jingling. And I couldn't keep my eyes or my mind on the wall I was building. You must get the dancing girl, I know where she lives. So, before the king could order for the execution for the punishment, the poor bricklayer pleaded in his defense. He said that it's true that he has built this wall, but he could not. But this was not his fault. It's because that he could well remember a dancing girl who was going up and down that street all day with her anklets jingling. So he could not keep his eyes or his mind on the wall that he was building. So it is a fault of the dancing girl and not his fault. And he says that he knows where the dancing girl lives. So here the bricklayer pleaded for his defense, and he said that it's not his fault for the putting of a weak wall. It was a fault of the dancing girl for whose jingling means anklets that kept on jingling or producing the sounds that made his mind disturbed, so he could not put up the wall properly. You are right, the case depends, when the strengthens. We must look into it. It is not easy to judge such complicated case. Let's get the dancer wherever she is. Finally, the king then ordered to bring the dancing girl. The dancing girl, now an old woman, came trembling to the court. So she has grown old, so she comes trembling to the court, shaking and trembling. Did you walk up and down that street many years ago while this poor man was building a wall? Did you see him? Yes, my lord, I remember it very well. So the king asked her whether it was she was going up and down the streets all day long, for which disturbed the mind of the bricklayer and he put up a weak wall. She replied in positive. She said yes. So you did walk up and down with your anklets jingling. You were young and you distracted him. So he built a bad wall, the king said. It has fallen on a poor burglar and killed him. You have killed an innocent man, so you will have to be punished. So finally, the king told the old woman that for her only the bricklayer put up a weak wall and she should be punished with death. She thought for a minute and said, my lord, wait, I know now why I was walking up and down the street. I had given some gold to the goldsmith to make some jewelry for me. He was a lazy scoundrel. He made so many excuses, said he would give it now and he would give it then, and so on all day. He made me walk up and down to his house a dozen times. That was when this bricklayer saw me. It's not my fault. My lord, it's the damn goldsmith's fault. So, in her defense, she told that she knew why she was walking up and down that street. Actually, she had given some gold to the goldsmith to make some jewelry for her. And she said that the goldsmith was a scoundrel, was a lazy scoundrel, and he made so many excuses. And for that reason, she used to go up and down or walk up and down that street, which made the bricklayer distracted and disturbed. And she said that it's not her fault, it's the fault of the goldsmith, and he should be punished. We will have to stop here. Rest of the chapter we shall continue in the next class. Thank you.